Powerful and provocative, prophetic and practical,
Have you ever found yourself?
Are you dating for that purpose?
informative and
I feel
inspirational.
every bit of it. Like, I'm not trying to waste my
How you gonna do better if you don't know what better looks like? I do. Come on, let's talk about it with me, the Mind Massager. I can't hear anything, so let me put the wrong thing in. Let's get this going. Get this out because I can't hear no one. So let's see. All right. All right, I want to jump on here for a few minutes to discuss some questions anyone might have regarding life insurance. So I'm using a different microphone and I can't hear anything right now, so I won't be taking any phone calls at this particular moment. If I see where someone sends in a request, then I can open up the phone lines. But as of right now, I just want to talk. And if you have any questions, you're welcome to put those questions in the chat, because today I'm not here to sell you anything. I want to educate you, because life insurance is not about death. Not about death. It's about responsibility. It's about responsibility. So I want to come and I want to share, because most people I've discovered don't avoid life insurance because they're irresponsible. They avoid it because no one ever explained it to them in a way that made sense. So in the next few minutes, I'm going to break down term life insurance in plain language so you can protect the people you love without confusion and without pressure. So as I said, I'm going to talk about term life insurance. If you have any questions, feel free to put those questions in the chat, and we can move on. Now listen, at the end of this all, of course, if you would like to partner with us and have us protect your family, feel free to reach out to us. If I'm not currently licensed in, hold on, I got this music still going. Did y'all hear any of what I just said? I didn't realize I had the music still going. But listen, and once again, let me go ahead and say, let me reiterate that again. I'm going to talk about insurance. Most people don't avoid life insurance because they're irresponsible. Let's get that understood. They avoid it because no one ever explained it to them in a way that made sense. So in the next few minutes, what I'm going to break down is I'm going to break down term life, term insurance, and I'm going to do it in plain language so you can protect the people you love without confusion. Let's get that understood from the onset. So let me pull up this slide so we can move forward. So we're going to be talking about term. Oh, hold on. We're going to be talking about term insurance 101. Protection first, and then we'll worry about wealth later. And of course, my insurance company is called Team Better Life Insurance Company. So why this conversation matters? This conversation matters is because life insurance is about responsibility. It's not about fear. We're not trying to invoke fear in anyone. The government does that enough, so I don't have to do it. It's just about being responsible, because when you pass away, you don't leave, a lot of times you don't leave legacy, you leave bills. And even if that one bill is just the bill of your burial, life insurance is about responsibility, not about fear. And most people don't avoid life insurance because they don't. Most people avoid life insurance because they don't understand it. So in these next few minutes, we're going to try to help you understand life insurance. And if you look at it properly, term life insurance is really often the first responsible financial move, but it's not the last, because at that point, then you start to transition into other things that are wealth building. So let's start with the most misunderstood form of coverage. All right. What is term life insurance? If you know what term life insurance is, type it in the chat. Let me hear what your definitions of term life is. Now, I've already given you a cheat sheet. Let me take the cheat sheet off for those that didn't see it. Yeah. What is term life insurance? What do you know about term life insurance? What do you know about term life insurance? If you still see it on the screen, you got a cheat sheet. But what do you know? Well, never mind. I'll tell you. You can chime in too. But term life insurance is coverage for a specific period of time. For a specific period of time, and that time is called a term. Common terms are 10 years, 20 years, and 30 years. What happens is, if you pass away during that term, your beneficiary, and that's who you put on the life, that's who receives the death benefit when you pass away. Your beneficiary receives that death benefit. Now, if you outlive the policy, it expires. If you outlive the policy, it expires. So you have to know that as well. A lot of people don't share that information, but it's called term life for a reason. It's for a specific term. So the good thing about term life insurance is that term life insurance does not require you to be rich. It just asks you to be responsible. You don't have to be rich to leave a death benefit. You just have to be responsible. So why does term exist? Well, it's designed for people who have income but limited assets. Think about it like this. Young family gets married, fresh out of college. Let's say they make it $50,000, $60,000 a year. They go out and buy $200,000-$300,000 house. God forbid something happens, someone passes away. When they pass away, that house is still the responsibility of the surviving spouse. So term life insurance allows you to purchase larger quantities of insurance for less amounts of money in the event that something happens accidentally, untimely, or whatever. So this is designed for working families who have income but limited assets. Also for those who have dependents, young families who haven't had time to acquire wealth yet, people who have mortgages, car notes, student loans, those that need. Term life exists for those who need maximum coverage at minimum cost. Maximum coverage at minimum cost. That's why term exists. So let's explore the differences between term life and permanent life. And let me just say this as well about term life. Term life is like renting protection. Permanent life is like owning protection. Both have their place, but you don't buy a house before you can afford the down payment. So you have to put things in perspective. So when we look at term life versus permanent life, let's talk about some of the qualifications or some of the characteristics of a term life policy. A term life policy is low cost. Low cost. That's why you can see people get $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 for $30 or $40 a month. You know, does that statistically, I mean, mathematically, does that make sense? No. Well, they do term life. It has high maximum benefit at a low cost. It also has high coverage, but it's temporary. What do you mean it's temporary? What I mean when I say it's temporary is just what I told you earlier. It's for a specific time. So if you do a policy for 10 years, if you do it for 20 years, if you do it for 30 years, it's a term life. It's for a specific term. It's temporary, but its focus is income replacement. So that, as I said earlier, if there's a surviving spouse, if there are children involved, if there are young people with limited assets, they're able to buy maximum protection at minimum cost so that they can replace what their income does for a specific person. Hypothetically speaking, you got a mortgage $300,000. Well, one of the spouses passed away. Well, if that person gets a $300,000 death benefit, they can pay the mortgage up for 5-10 years and give themselves a chance to, to absorb the loss. But that's what term life allows you to do. It's ideal when kids are young, when mortgages are high, when the business is growing, and when assets are not yet built. That's term life. It's ideal when kids are young, when mortgage is high, business is growing, and assets are not yet built. Now let's talk about permanent life. Let's talk about permanent life. Permanent life is higher cost. It has coverage for life. It builds cash value. It works best when, its focus is legacy, wealth, and tax strategy. That's permanent life. Its focus is legacy, wealth, and tax strategy. It works best when your income is stable, when your assets exist, and when long-term planning is the goal. Now, this is what I have to get you to understand. Term life is an inferior to permanent life. It's transitional. It's not inferior. Both of them have their place. Term life is for a specific demographic. Permanent life is for a different demographic. Term life isn't inferior. It's transitional. Most people don't move from no coverage to permanent coverage. Most people move from term to permanent coverage. Does that make sense? Most people start off with term life and get consistent paying $50, $60, $70 a month so they can have maximum protection at minimum cost. But most people don't move from no coverage to permanent coverage. That's why today we're talking about term life. Okay? So term life's real job is to cover you during your most vulnerable years. It protects your earning years. What it does is it buys time while the kids are growing up, while your debt is going down, and while your net worth is going up. That's what term life does, is it buys time during that time. Okay? That means, so if something were to happen to you today, your family does not inherit your dreams. they inherit your bills. And the first bill starts with the undertaker because they got to pay the funeral home. And an average funeral, unless you cremate, average funeral is about $8,000-$10,000, and that's going up. That's going up. That's going up. So you don't want to leave people your bills. Be responsible. So what term life ensures is that the mortgage gets paid, that kids are able to stay in the same schools, and that the surviving spouse has time. They don't have to panic. That's what term life does. So you get maximum coverage at the minimum amount. So next slide. Let's talk about living benefits. Most of the policies that newer policies, and that's why if you hear people talk about the new kind of insurance, most new policies come with living benefits. Let me tell you this, not all policies have living benefits. Not all of them have living benefits, but there are a lot of policies that do. Most of the ones that I offer, they do have living benefits. What living benefits are riders that allow you to access all or part of your death benefit while you're still alive. But they're triggered by certain events. Number one event is in the event of a critical illness. What qualifies as a critical illness? A critical illness is a heart attack, stroke, cancer, something along those lines. Those are critical illnesses. In the event of a critical illness, so a lot of the insurance companies will forward a large portion of the death benefit to the person who is the insured on the policy. The other two life events that will trigger living benefits are chronic illnesses or terminal illnesses. So 3 things that trigger them are the critical illness, chronic illness, and terminal illness. If you were to contract one of those while you had certain life insurance policies, say you had a $200,000 life insurance policy, and the insurance company decided to forward 90% of that, you would receive 180% of that. Receive $180,000. Not bad, huh? And most insurance policies, term policies specific, they do come with living benefits. So not all term policies, let me reiterate that, not all term policies have living benefits. Most of your older policies, the ones that were written several years ago, they don't have term living benefits. Most new policies do. Like I said, the ones I sell, they do. Why this matters? This matters because medical crises oftentimes they don't wait until retirement age. Living benefits can help pay for treatment. They can help with time off of work. And they also help you with household expenses. This is why life insurance isn't just a death policy anymore. It's a living protection plan. Because if something were to happen, then you have that rider in place called the living benefits. All right. There's some people, a lot of times people ask me about, is the policy active on day one? Well, most policies are day one coverage. They offer day one coverage. Coverage begins once the policy is issued and the first premium is paid. Most traditional policies have no elimination period. Okay? Protection is active immediately. In most cases, those policies are active immediately. But the first 2 years, there is what you call a contestability clause. It's a 2-year contestability clause. Now, what that means is for the first 2 years of the policy, a carrier can review the medical history, the application accuracy, and misrepresentation. That's why it's important to be honest on a application. Because in the first 2 years, the insurance company has the right, especially if something were to happen. That's why they have insurable interest, to make sure that you have some type of interest in this individual. Because if you don't have any interest in that individual and you're trying to get a policy on them, people think diabolical thoughts. So insurance companies have to insure themselves and protect themselves. Now, this is not a waiting period for payout. This is not a waiting period for payout. It's a truth check window. They have to be honest. I mean, like if nobody's going to sit up here and write $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 check, they don't even want to write a 50. They don't want to write any checks. That's why they sell so much term life policies, because most times the term policies never make the full term. So they have, but this is for a transitional period. Okay, so this is not a waiting period for a payout. It's a truth check window. And then after 2 years, that policy becomes incontestable. And as long as the premiums are paid, the claims are honored. So if with the policy, you have to tell the truth, because within those first 2 years, they can go back and review medical claims, medical history. They can look for application accuracy, and they can look for misrepresentations. For instance, if you say you don't smoke, but you know you do smoke, and you pass away in the first 2 years and they find out you are a smoker, then they could contest whether or not they want to pay out that claim. Okay, let's talk about another type of insurance. It's called guaranteed issue. Now, guaranteed issue, everybody can get insurance. Everybody can get insurance, even if you're on your deathbed. Deathbed, or if you have some type of terminal illness, you can get it. But what you get is what you call a guarantee. What those people have to get is what you call guaranteed issue coverage. Now, the guaranteed issue coverage does not require a medical exam, but it has higher costs at lower amounts, and often has graded or limited benefits initially. This is for people with serious health conditions, those who've been declined everywhere else. So, and what happens is that with guaranteed issue, with them having limited coverage, a lot of times they will not pay out in the first 2 years. A lot of times they won't pay out in the first 2 years. And if they don't pay out in the first 2 years, what they will do is they'll pay back whatever premiums you paid, plus a certain percentage. So if you say you got $20,000 of life insurance for $100 a month, and you've only had the policy for 7 months, and then you pass away, well, they will give you back $700 plus 10%, which would be $770. But if you live through, and I've had clients do this, if you live through that first 2 years, then you're entitled to the full benefit. So that's why it's important when you know that you won't need insurance, but you're in one of those issues where you've been declined everywhere else, go ahead and get guaranteed issue. Why? So you can get the clock running. When you start the policies, that starts the insurance clock. And what it does is it locks in insurability, creating some protection now. And it can be replaced later if your health improves. So don't shy away. If you can afford it, don't shy away from guaranteed issue coverage, simply because it does get the clock started. You don't want to wait until the house is on fire before you buy insurance. Okay? So let's look at some common objections. Why starting the clock matters. Let me say this first. Why starting the clock matters. It starts first because the health usually does not improve. It doesn't, usually. And typically rates increase with age. So some protection is better than no protection. So go ahead, get the clock started. And preferably, like I said, I've had clients who live beyond those 2 years. I've had clients actually who lost weight. Initially couldn't get insurance because their weight was at a certain place, but they got the clock started with a 2 year window, and in a year later, they lost weight, got them with a better company. Okay, so go ahead and get that clock started. Here are some common misconceptions about insurance. I'm young. Well, if you're young, that's the cheapest time to get it. That's how you're able to get those $1 million policies. Now, do they, a lot of them pay? No, not initially, but if something were to happen, it's there. And while you're putting out limited money for maximum coverage, you're able to save so you can start building assets so you can transition from term coverage to permanent coverage. Does that make sense? So don't say I'm young, because while you're young is the cheapest time. Now, a lot of people say, I don't want to get insurance because my work coverage is enough. Well, usually that's false, because usually if you have work coverage, it's not portable. So if you lose your job, they're not going to pay. That policy doesn't go with you. And if it does go with you, it's not usually an astronomical amount of money. So work coverage is not usually enough. And most people say, well, they don't want to do it because term ends with nothing. I understand that. I get that logic. It makes sense. But peace of mind matters as well, because if something were to happen, most people have car insurance and never have to file a claim. But have an accident, it's good to have a phone number you can call who will take care of that benefit or take care of that issue for you. So it's good to have term life insurance in place for that. So who term life is for? It's for parents. It's for homeowners. It's for business owners. Anyone with dependents, anyone that is depending on your income, that's who term life is for. And you can start out with it. Use it at limited cost with maximum benefit. Limited cost, maximum benefit. So your next step, if you are interested in learning more about term life or any type of life insurance, I do have all types of, I help families with all types of insurance. I have term life, I have universal life index, which is one of my personal favorites, indexed universal life. I have whole life available, final expense, indexed universal life. That's a retirement strategy. We have annuities. All those types of policies are available, but educate yourself and see what type you need. Then after you've educated yourself, let's have a conversation. Let's have a conversation. Life insurance isn't about buying a policy. It's about buying peace of mind while you build. And you got to understand, get protection that's tailored to your season. As you get older, and your children are grown, your assets have increased. After all those things have transpired, then term life isn't as essential. At that point, you start to be concerned about how you pass and that, making sure that the arrangements are covered, that you're not a burden on anyone else. So you have protection that's tailored to your season. But get protection today. It's good to go ahead and get protection today so you can make better decisions, so you'll have a stronger future. If you want to know what makes sense for this season of your life, we can talk. If I'm not licensed in your area, we can still have a conversation, and I can go ahead and probably get a license in that area. It's no pressure. It's just clarity, because I want to help you be able to provide protection for your family in whatever season of life you're in. I had a conversation with a young lady the other day who purchased life insurance for her children a few years ago. Well, they've gotten a little older. She's gotten a little older. They're in their careers. So we're making a transition from something that was temporary to something that was permanent. And it's only a small jump, $7, $8, $9 a month. And now her children will have permanent coverage. They won't only have temporary coverage. Term life, like I said, serves its season. But once you get to a place where you're able to afford more, then by all means, put yourself in that position so that you can make the transition from temporary to perm. Listen, term life protects your today. Term life, protects your today while you build your tomorrow. Listen, I just wanted to drop that on you, give you a little education. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. If you want to know anything more about insurance, just type insurance in the comments and I will reach out to you. But remember this, the world is changing. My question for you will always be, why do you remain the same?
We're cooking something true. Intellectual stew, real raw and relevant for you. With James Kirkland guiding through the deep, the light, the old, the new. Intellectual stew. Yeah, we're stirring up the view.